Good morning and welcome to our 249th weekly webcast. Now, if this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. If you've been with us before, welcome back. Now, the way this call works is this is an AMA, like you see on Reddit. You can ask me anything. You can ask me business questions, personal questions, finance questions, etc. And my humble goal here is to help you take your career to the next level. Now, please keep typing your questions as I'm going to answer all of them. But first, I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about tips on how to ace your next interview with 10 tips. And these 10 tips can also help you prepare for meetings with potential customers, mentors at work, or even senior executives at your company. All right, so tip number 1 is how to make a great first impression. Smile. Nothing you wear is more important than your smile. And if you're sitting in the interview room waiting for your interview to arrive, smile, make eye contact, and of course stand up when they enter the room. And of course, turn off your cell phone. Keep it out of sight and out of mind. Now, in terms of what to wear, what you can do is you can look at the LinkedIn profile of the person or people that you're going to be meeting with to see how they dress. Or what you can do is you can go to the company's website and see what people at the company wear in the About section of the website. Now, if I'm not sure what to wear, I usually dress like this with a tie. And then at the front desk, before getting on the elevator to go to the interview, I ask the person at the front desk if they wear ties in the office. If not, I take off the tie. Tip number 2, body language. Don't cross your arms, as some people think it means that we are not open-minded or we're overconfident. And when it comes to eye contact, of course, never look above the interviewer's head. Now, I learned from interviewer Larry King on CNN to occasionally break eye contact by looking left or looking right every now and then, just so you don't come across as being intimidating. Tip number 3 of 10, bond before business. Now, at the beginning of the interview, get to know your interviewer, as you'll never get a second chance to make a first impression. So let's talk about how to bond with the interviewer. Well, before the interview, go to their LinkedIn profile to see if you have anything in common with them in terms of their work or education history or people or companies that they follow. Also, go to their Twitter or X profile, as they call it now, to see who they follow. Now, if you follow athletes in a sport, if they follow athletes in a sport you love, what you can do is you can talk about sports, because sports is great boardroom talk. And when it comes to small talk, make sure to read the newspaper, or as I do each morning getting ready for calls like this, I listen to the current events by doing this. Alexa, what's today's Wall Street Journal news?
From the Wall Street Journal.
Alexa, please stop. Also, what you can do is you can set up alerts by going to alerts.google.com, so you immediately get emails from Google the second a news event hits the internet about the company that you're interviewing with that day. Tip number 4, be yourself, because your friends and family love you for being you. You know, don't pretend to be somebody else. And remember that time you went on a date and you weren't yourself because, you tried too hard and it didn't help you with that date. Just be you. Now, I once had a bunch of interviews and I just couldn't get a job. Then I went to a couple of interviews, and right before it started, I told myself this: I don't care if I get this job. And I was just myself. And I had a conversation. Like the person I was meeting with was my aunt or uncle that I haven't seen in a while. Now, I'm not saying be unprofessional, but just be you. It takes so much pressure off you if you just tell yourself, I just don't care. Just like before you give a presentation, tell yourself, I don't care what they think of me, as I'm just going to be me. And when you're watching somebody present on stage, it's interesting because if they mess up, they're immediately more likable because they're just themselves. So don't care what people think, okay? Now, I'm a spiritual person, and I often don't worry about what I can't control because I tell myself God already knows what's going to happen, and that really puts me at ease. Tip number 5. People are usually motivated by 3 things at work. Number 1, they want to get promoted. Number 2, they want to make more money. And number 3, as Andrew, my son, used to say, they want to enjoy work, meaning enjoy the people they work with, which is why bonding in an interview is crucial. Just be you. So how can you help them get promoted or make more money? And how can you help them accomplish more at work? Well, think about adding value to them in terms of creating one-page write-ups on the back of your resume that you'll give them to the interviewer if you're there in person. And on this one-pager, help them with their job. For example, this is out there. If they work in sales, before your interview with them, network like crazy and meet people that might be potential future customers of theirs, and show them the names of the potential customers you met on that one pager that you give them. Now, if you think this is too much work, And I say this as always with love in my heart. Please ask yourself this. How badly do you want that job? Now, if the person you're interviewing with works in finance, give them a one-page write-up on an investment idea that you worked on while preparing for the interview. And if the person you're interviewing with works in operations, for example, then on the one-pager, explain how a new AI or product built on ChatGPT that you tested can really help them accomplish much more at work. Now, this is a great segue to tip number 6, which is how to turn your weaknesses into strengths in an interview by using ChatGPT. For example, if you think your biggest weakness is poor grades on your transcript, and you had to work while you were in school, which hurt your grades, then you can type this in ChatGPT, and let's go there together actually. All right, so let me go over here, share my screen. I've got this copied right here. Okay, you can write this. I got poor grades in school because I worked part-time to support myself. In 50 words, turn that into a strength. And you submit it here. And sometimes you have to submit it a couple of times before you get a great answer. And remember, keep your answer short because less is more. So here it says, while academics presented a challenge due to my part-time work commitments, the experience owned my resilience and multitasking skills. Balancing employment and studies instilled a work ethic and real-world acumen. You wouldn't really talk like that in an interview. Seldom gained in a classroom setting. These attributes have proven invaluable in my professional journey. And you can even rephrase that and say, give me 50 words or 25 words in a more casual way. All right, here's another one. Let's say that you only worked for a short period of time at a company, and you're worried that you're a flight risk in the mind of the interviewer, meaning you might just stay a couple months at that new job. So let's type this in ChatGPT. I pasted this here. I only worked for a short time at a company. I left because I wasn't passionate about the work. In 50 words, turn that into a strength. Okay, you can always say, I'm much more passionate about the role I'm interviewing for right now. So anyway, you can read through this. Again, I recommend writing in 50 words in a casual way, turn this into a strength. Okay, let me go back to my ACAM here. All right, tip number 7 of 10. Use frameworks to help you speak gooder and more logically. For example, the SWOT analysis, SWOT, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. When asked a business question, you can answer by saying this. Let's analyze this from a SWOT framework perspective. And what I'm about to say, this is off script here, what I'm about to say will buy me time as I think of what to say as follows. In terms of the strengths are blah, blah, blah. Moving on to the weaknesses are blah, blah, blah. In terms of the opportunities, which are blah, blah, blah. And lastly, threats include blah, blah, blah. And the bottom line is whatever it is. So this methodology of using frameworks makes you sound logical while again buying you time to think of the answer. And you'll also notice that I use what I refer to as transition words to structure my logic. I said in terms of, moving on to, etc. And if you ever find that you're rambling, then immediately use the crutch of the bottom line is. I also like to have a few quotes up my sleeve too that I can say to wrap up a thought, which I also use in my speeches. So here's an example. Mark Twain once said, the 2 most important days in your life are number 1, the day you're born, and number 2, the day you find out why. I'm incredibly passionate about this role I'm interviewing for, as I see it as a passion and not a job. Or what you can do is you can quote Confucius, which you could say something like, find an occupation you enjoy and you'll never work another day in your life. And I'm so passionate about my job as a teacher that I'm humbly very productive because I thoroughly enjoy it. Moving on to tip number 8, use what I refer to as strength words. Now, there are certain words that if you use them, the interviewer will likely start writing down notes about you during the interview, like the word teamwork, or if you say exceeds expectations, or passionate about the role, etc. Tip number 9, record yourself answering this question. Tell me about X. Okay, and X should be the first line of your resume. Or tell me about the last line of your resume. Do this for every single line in your resume and on your LinkedIn profile, and see if you can use strength words when answering the questions as well. Also, make sure you watch or listen to the recordings of you answering those questions so that you don't sound too monotone or your voice modulation doesn't make you sound too arrogant, etc. And keep your answers short too, just in case they have follow-up questions. Lastly, tip number 10. Within 1 hour of the interview's completion, email the person you interviewed with. Why within 1 hour? Because later on during that day, and probably right before the interviewer leaves work, they will have to complete a form internally saying what they thought of you. In that thank you email or LinkedIn email, you can make the subject line thank you, and the contents of the thank you message can be something simplistic like this, short. Jamie, thank you so much for your time today, semicolon. I enjoyed our conversation. In terms of your question about X, I did some research and here are my thoughts. Basically, if you couldn't answer a question in the interview, show them in this thank you email that you are resourceful and proactive. And if you talked about something that you're both passionate about, then send them a link to an interesting article on that topic. Then at the very bottom of the email or in-mail, you write, thank you, comma, your future boss. I'm kidding. You put your name, of course. Sorry. Oh my God, I went 12 minutes without dad humor. Okay, let's move on now to questions that you have. Thank you. All right. Let me go right here to the top. First question I've got is, Chris, would you be able to share what is the most inspiring advances in technology besides generative AI? Yeah. So for me, there's nothing more inspiring than AI right now. I'm creating tons of courses right now on AI. If there's other technologies that are inspiring, for me, it'd be anything clean tech related, to make this world a better place because there's no planet B. Aside from that, there's Web 3.0, which is a little bit overhyped at this point. The metaverse, which is spelled MEH, Taverse, Taverse. I can't wait to get the Apple Visor product when it comes out early next year. I know it's going to be pricey, but I got to do it. Yeah, nothing is more important right now than AI. Yeah. Now, last thing I'll say about this question is that here in the Bay Area where I live, in South San Francisco, just north of where I live, which is the biotech capital of the country, we're seeing more money being put into biotech companies than ever before. And these biotech companies are working on life extension. So that's something I'm very passionate about. It inspires me. Yeah. So I want to live forever. And there's people on this call that will make it to 150. It's amazing. All right. Next question you have here is, do you keep constantly automatically updating buy and sell orders at a target price or just alert? Yeah. I think about it a little bit differently. I'm more long-term focused. What I will do is I'll listen to earnings calls, and that might change my target price. And I can go into more detail on that if you want me to. If a stock spikes materially after an earnings call based on the new earnings estimates above my target price, then yes, I'll take some profits. But I also think about it in terms of risk management. I don't think that we should have more than 20 positions in our portfolio, and no position should be more than 5% of capital. It's just good diversification practices from a risk management perspective. So if a position of mine gets way above 5% of my liquid net worth in my portfolio, I'll take some profits. Now, when I manage money professionally at a hedge fund, several hedge funds, what I did was I had target prices, and I also had stop loss levels, meaning a position to get out of a long or short position. But what I used to look at closely was the relative strength index. And if a stock that I owned had an RSI, and I'm happy to show you a chart of this, had an RSI of 80 or so or above, I'd take profits usually, a little bit. Conversely, if it had an RSI of 20, then I'd start to accumulate the position. Yeah, or cover if I'm short. Okay, next question is from Ray. Hey, Ray. Ray wrote, how many hours do you think minimum is feasible to examine a company report before you invest in it? And you wrote 3 hours, question mark. Yeah, it all depends on, like, the older you get, the more productive you are. Like when I was younger, when I was in school, I'd read the whole textbook, including the index and all that crap. But then as you get older, you know what's important. So you can jump right to the bottom line summary sections. So for me, I'm pretty quick now, humbly, just because I've made every mistake there isn't to make investing, at reading these things. This is an S1 for Facebook, right? So for me, it usually takes me 1 to 2 days to do research on a company. When I first started out working in the hedge fund industry at Goldman Sachs and venture capital as well, it took me a couple of weeks to do deep due diligence. And always do your own research. And in my MBA program, which you can learn more about at harounmba.com, I provide you with tons of frameworks to help you do this much faster. Yeah. Okay. All right, please give an example of a bond ETF. Yeah, so the best recommendation I have for everybody here is, well, first of all, if you don't have time to pick stocks, buy ETFs instead. And don't make any ETF more than 5 or 10% of your liquid net worth. And the best website to do research on ETFs is called ETFDB, that's ETF database. And what you can do is you can go here and you can screen ETF. There's like 5,000 or 6,000 here you can look at. And you'll find some bond funds in here that you can take a look at as well. Now, make sure that whenever you invest in ETF, and I'm going to go to finance.yahoo.com to show you one here that I invest in a lot. Whenever you invest in ETF, you got to read the prospectus, the investment offering memorandum for it. And you always have to make sure that the fees are not that high as well. So for example, this is the ETF for the S&P 500. The 500 stocks that make up the US index or US markets. And here the fees are only about 4 pennies per $100 you invest per year. If you bought a mutual fund, it would be several 100%. Yeah, or it would be like 3 or 4% you'll pay. Also look at the average volume. You know, illiquid stocks own you in a down market. Make sure they're very, very liquid. When you're here, you can also look at the holdings and much, much more, but always go directly to the source. Okay, let me go back to my ACAM here. There we go. All right. Next question is, when you own Ethereum or Ether, do you own part of the platform? Not really. Nobody really owns the platform. The best way to think about it is this. The best investments are platform-based investments. So the Ethereum platform is a platform. And when you buy Ether or you mine Ether, ETH, it's like you own a car on that platform. Nobody really owns the platform. Yeah. Okay. Next question is, if after earnings, the price of a stock falls by 5%, how do you know if this is the dividend paid to the ex-owner or if this is a drop because EPS missed by 10%? Can you show this? Yeah, absolutely. So dividends are usually pretty small. So if a company has, a 2% dividend yield, that means that you get a 0.5% dividend every 3 months. Okay, it's annualized. And usually it's priced in if it's well known. Now, when it comes to a company reporting earnings after hours, if they beat or miss by a lot, what happens is the stock price will move based on that because that's new information. And the rule of thumb is this usually. If a company misses earnings by 20%, the stock usually gaps down 20% and vice versa. Now, in terms of big special dividends, it's a different matter. And the best way to explain this is to look together at an example of Microsoft. So in the fall of 2004, Microsoft issued a one-time special dividend of, I think it was $32 billion. And because it was like 10% of the share price at that point in time. And the reason they did it was because Microsoft back then was transitioning from a growth stock to a value stock. And value investors would have been more interested if the company issued a big dividend. So let me go here and I'm going to show you the chart of exactly what happened and when the stock gapped down. So let me go to maximum here. And whenever you look at these charts, whenever you see S, it means stock split, and then D means dividend. And I'm covering part of this in the corner here, but growth stocks usually don't offer dividends. So right here in the 90s, Microsoft split a gazillion times. And then right here, they did a special dividend. And let me see if I can actually zoom in right here, 2004, because I want to show you exactly what happened. I remember I participated in this trade. Okay, hold on one second. Yeah, right here. Good. Okay, so the stock price of Microsoft was about $30 here, and then it dropped about 10% right here because they did a one-time special dividend. And you can see it down here if you mouse over. That was the dividend of over $3, which is 10% of the share price at the point in time. The other dividends are much, much smaller. 8 pennies, 8 pennies, 8 pennies. So this is a one-time special dividend, which impacted the stock price materially. Okay. All right. Next up, Prashant. Hey, Prashant, how are you? And Prashant, thank you for that email. My team sent it to me regarding somebody else posting a course of mine online. That's actually, there's a coding YouTube channel that's very, very big. And I gave them one of my courses for free because I want to help. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Siva wrote, hi, Chris. Good morning. I'm Siva from India. Nice to meet you. I have 8 years of technical experience in the IT industry as a database developer with a 2-year gap because of personal reasons, and I'm looking for a transition. Currently, I'm preparing myself, building projects portfolio for my next leap transition towards data analytics, meaning machine learning. On the core industry with my expertise. Okay, and then you wrote, I need your feedback for my career path. Thanks in advance. Yeah, absolutely. So, as I was showing earlier today with the 10 tips on how to interview, one of the tips was how do you turn a potential weakness into a strength? So if you think a potential weakness or issue in the eyes of the interviewer might be the gap when you weren't working for whatever reason it was, then what you can do is go to ChatGPT and you can type the reason why you weren't working for 2 years and ask ChatGPT to turn it into a strength. If you want to open up and tell me the explicit reason, I'd be happy to think in real time about how to turn this into a strength as well. And if you want, I can take a look at your LinkedIn profile in real time here and give you a real-time analysis of LinkedIn profile to humbly help you make it much, much better. To do that, don't post the link because links are not allowed on YouTube. Just say yes, and I'll go and look you up there. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Prashant wrote, can you help me with the yield curve? Absolutely. And by the way, interest rates the yield curve just implied that rates are going to almost 5%, which is the highest rate we've seen since 2007. It's kind of scary. Sure. So the way to analyze the yield curve, I'll do this very fast because I've done this before in previous calls, is you go to treasury.gov, okay? And then once you're here, what you can do is you go here to data and then yield curve, and then you select the current month. Okay. And so right here, we see the 1 month rate and the 30-year rate. And people analyze the 30-year rate closely because as this rate goes up, it means that we're paying more for our mortgages. And housing starts were the lowest they've been in 13 years. The data came out this morning, BMO, before the market opened. So you can look at it here. So right now, it did hit 5. That's a big deal. It hit it yesterday. Wow. Okay. So here is short-term rates, 1 month. Okay. And here is long-term rates. And we have what's called an inverted yield curve now, meaning rates are higher now than they'll be in 30 years. And usually that implies a recession is coming. Why? Because if rates are higher now than they'll be in the future, then that means in the future, the government's going to cut interest rates because the economy might not be doing well. So that's called an inverted yield curve. Yeah. Now, the yield curve in India, I looked at it recently, I don't think it's inverted. Yeah, it's a healthy yield curve, meaning rates will be higher in the future because things will be better in the future than they are today. Yeah. And you could always do a search on India yield curve, and you'll see you'll see what I mentioned there. Okay. Okay, next up we got Roy. Hey, Roy. Roy wrote, hey, Chris, long time. Hope you're doing well. You wrote, I want to ask about AI and its implications in copyright. Yes. Suppose I create an AI assistant that is trained on your content on sites like Udemy or Skillshare. Then I create a bot that answers finance questions in your style. What is the future of content creation when AI could do almost anything and faster too? Yeah, you're more than welcome to do it royalty-free, of course, for my stuff. But I think it's a copyright issue if you do that. For example, if you use DALL-E 3, which is a new image creation utility you can use directly in ChatGPT, it will not create logos of successful brands. And also, you can't say paint in the style of and give an artist that's alive, right? So you don't own that content, somebody else does. And part of the strike we saw in Hollywood, which I think is completely resolved now, was concern that Hollywood producers would write scripts using somebody else's style. And that's called a system prompt or a role prompt. Yeah. So I would always err on the side of being cautious. Always be careful. And if you ever use ChatGPT to write an article, just understand that there's a chance it can come back to hurt you. I would use ChatGPT just for bullet points, and then you write the article yourself. And what you can also do, and a lot of big companies recommend doing this, is you add a disclosure saying, I use ChatGPT to write this. Yeah. And it's still early in terms of copyright law when it comes to ChatGPT and AI. But I think that we can get into a lot of trouble if we use other people's IP. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with linking to somebody else's website. But taking that content, repackaging on your own website is kind of like taking little clips of music and then trying to distribute it from your own website. It's like Napster. Okay. And Ali wrote, Chris, I missed you. Oh my God, how are you? It's been a while. Welcome to the House of Habibi, the Haroun House of Habibi. Great to see you. Okay. Next up, we got Pulasi, who wrote, hey, Chris, how are you? I'm always great, thanks. I'm doing what I was meant to do. I'm passionate about teaching. I love it. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. Next up, MTI wrote, good morning, Chris. Hey, I'm considering starting an AI business. Do you have any recommendations on which ones would be in a good area? Yeah. So there's plenty of applications that are built on top of ChatGPT. So for example, you can take a look at Ralph.ai, which will help you to craft emails or LinkedIn posts, etc. Another application that might give you ideas built on top of ChatGPT is called chatbase.co for setting up chat engines. Now, I want to show you something from Sequoia. Now, Sequoia is the #1 venture capital firm in history, and they've got the best resource here on the web when it comes to emerging tech ideas. So what we're going to do within AI, we're going to go to Sequoia Cap, and you just search for generative AI on their website. And right here, if you scroll down, you will see the generative AI market map. And right here, and this is version 3, Sequoia highlights all of the best applications or tools that you can find from an AI perspective. And you can look through these to give you an idea in terms of what AI company you might want to create. For example, there's a company here that Sequoia mentions in search called Glean. And what Glean does is it's a secure way for corporations to be able to use many data sources internally as kind of like a Google. So Glean will search through your Slack messages, your intranet, Dropbox, etc. But take a look at this if you want to, just to get you ideas. And for anybody that's interested in leveraging AI yourself to take your career or company to the next level, I recommend beta testing or trying out a lot of these products. And if you're super techie, if you scroll down here, you've got the AI infrastructure stack in terms of which AI tools you can use to help you program and much, much more. And make sure you write a full business plan, because failing to plan is plan to fail. Yeah. Okay. And then Ted wrote, okay, we got a joke coming. Thank you. Hey, Chris, is there anything worse than when it's raining cats and dogs? Yes, when it's hailing taxis. Okay, that was good. I like that. I like that. I used a really bad one the other day. I'm teaching a course on Python. And I said, if you meet me in real life, I'm a tiny man. Yeah. Yeah. And a #2 pencil is always sad because it didn't come #1. Okay. Thank you for the joke. I love it. I love dad humor. Okay. Give me 1 second here. Okay, next up, Prashant from India wrote, need help in finding a way to develop confidence in my 12-year-old child. Yeah. Do you think Roblox is spoiling the future of our kids? Yeah, no, please. No, I love questions like this. I think Roblox is good for kids because it's kind of like a software development kit. Kind of like Minecraft, which I think is good for kids because it's like a software development kit. How? Because you create switches to open doors or fire pretend missiles, whatever. And that's like if-then logic or loops. And I think Roblox is very, very healthy. Now, in terms of confidence, I think the most important gift that we can give our children or students even is a sense of confidence. Because with confidence, you can accomplish anything. Yeah. And if I can go back in time and give myself advice when I was 12 or younger, I would tell myself, Chris, don't care what people think of you. Just Don't care. Don't care if people, make fun of the way you dress, the way you look, your preferences, whatever, your tastes, your choice of a potential career. And for everybody in this call, for homework, I want you to do the following. I want you to get a piece of paper and a pencil, and I want you to write this down. Do this 10 times. I don't care about X. And X, you fill in the blank, do it 10 times. Like, I don't care what people think of my career. I don't care if people hear that I'm a big fan of Enya, which is true. She's awesome. I don't care if people find out that I'm a 51-year-old man-child that still plays video games. I do. I don't care. I don't care what people think of my career. I'm not saying be rude or disingenuous, but the I don't care methodology will help you a lot, especially when it comes to interviews, as I mentioned earlier today, or giving presentations. If you tell yourself you don't care what people think before you start a presentation or an interview, you'll be more relaxed. Yeah. And Winston Churchill once said, I once met a man on his deathbed who talked about all the worries he had in his life, none of which came true. Last thing I'll say on this, and this is a crutch, I'm falling back on a quote here, like I mentioned earlier, is Dale Carnegie once said, it's not work that kills us, it's worry. Okay. But I got to go off script here and talk about American students for a second. So I used to teach here in the Bay Area during the evenings at several universities, MBA schools, all that stuff. And 50% of my students were from overseas, but they were here in the States. They were American students. And I remember when I was a kid, the cover of Time magazine, the Newsweek, etc., was the downfall of the American child, the American student. American students are 50th in the world in maths, 50th in the world in science, etc. But I realized something teaching live. And what I'm about to say is not an American thing because half the students were born overseas. But American students are number one in the world in the most important economic category that nobody talks about, which is confidence. With confidence, you can sell anything. You can sell something you can't see, feel, or touch, like cloud computing, like Mark Benioff does, for example. Confidence is key. And the best way to build up your confidence is to just tell yourself, I don't care what people think of me, etc. All right. Okay, next up, Caroline from France. How are you? Wrote, good morning, Chris. Thanks for sharing your valuable knowledge weekly. My pleasure, and thank you for my favorite emoji ever. Moving on to Alex, who wrote, hey, Chris, hope you're well, likewise. Can you discuss the concept and a few examples of pro-forma operating income adjustments from an M&A valuation perspective? Absolutely. So there's two different types of financial statements when companies report earnings. One the accountants love, and the other one the finance people love. The one that the accountants love is called GAAP earnings, generally acceptable accounting principles. And GAAP earnings basically include everything cash and non-cash, like depreciation, which is not a cash expense. Non-GAAP, which is also called pro-forma, per your question, finance people love because it doesn't include non-cash stuff, like it doesn't include depreciation, amortization, etc. So when you're working on an M&A deal or valuing a company, I always recommend looking at non-GAAP pro-forma because it gets rid of the non-cash things. This way you can forecast cash in the future, like real cash, not pretend cash, like depreciation. You can forecast cash in the future, and then you can discount all that cash into today's terms and value the company. Yeah. And the difference between accounting and finance is accounting is like a science. It's backwards looking, and you have to be precise and perfect. Finance is like an art. You're forward looking, and you're trying to forecast the future. And you have to be uncomfortable with uncertainty. And if you have follow-up questions about that, please let me know. All right. And anytime a company reports earnings, and you can give me any company, and I'll show you right now on sec.gov, for example, usually they report two sets of financial statements, GAAP and non-GAAP. Yeah. But professional investors jump right to the GAAP or the non-GAAP financial results, update their financial models in real time. Yeah. Okay, Eric, how are you? Great to see you. Eric was one of my Platinum MBA students from 2019. Great to see you, bud. Eric wrote, good morning, all. Thank you for the interview tips, Chris, especially the thank you note. You're most welcome. Yeah. Great to see you. Yeah. Okay. And what Eric did, by the way, is he has a book called Ego Trip that he published in early January of 2020. It's great. I have it. And what he did was he took that book on personal development, he copied and pasted it into chatbase.co and turned it into a chatbot. And it's a free tool, chatbase.co, that we can all use and ask any questions you want about the content of a book or something you paste into it. It's incredible. Yeah. All right. Okay, next up, Motivation Station wrote, I run a digital marketing agency, and I'm thinking of starting a SaaS startup, software as a service, meaning cloud computing, startup in the next few years. Would the Haroun MBA be beneficial for me in terms of marketing? Absolutely, absolutely. And if you find that you don't get at least a 10x return on your investment in the first 30 days, I want you to ask for your money back. I have a 30-day, 100% money back guarantee. I'm constantly adding new stuff to the program as well, like coding in Python, AI I added recently, and much, much more. Yeah. And once you buy the MBA program, you get all my future content for free forever. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Eric wrote, I enrolled in Angela Yu's Python course. She's incredible. She's the best teacher on the planet. You wrote, it's very entertaining, but I'm not sure how I can use it as a future L&D, meaning learning and development expert. Any thoughts? Yeah. Yeah, I think that knowledge of Python will help you tremendously as you look at data analysis, right? So Python is great for analyzing data, but there's other things you can use within Python. These are props from our course we're about to publish. There's something called pandas and polars as well. And so many things you can import directly into Python and install to make it run much, much faster. Yeah. And Eric, if you find that it's kind of tricky learning that, I know you're in my MBA program, what you can do is take my Excel course that I have as part of my MBA program, because I teach you how to program in Excel. Excel is the best place to learn programming first, because you can record yourself doing stuff on the screen, like, I don't know, making a cell bold or creating a chart. Then you stop recording, and then code is created for you, and you can analyze your code that way. And I teach you everything about Excel, including Visual Basic for Excel, object-oriented programming in that elective. Yeah. And if you're not sure where to access it, if somebody here is an MBA student of mine, one of my many MBA programs over the years, just go to the following web address. I'll show you. Okay, let's go here. So go to harounmba.com/all lowercase Q&A. And then right here, depending on which one of my MBA programs you guys have taken over the years, you can click and it'll go immediately to the Excel course, or you can buy it here if you want. Yeah. But don't buy it if you're an MBA student, so you get it for free. All right, next, hey, Manas, how are you? Manas wrote, good morning, my dear mentor. Great to see you. Manas is a great instructor also on Udemy. You wrote, what a day. It's better than ever. How is the world doing in the midst of a war battle, and oil rises, gold is rising, and Bitcoin is falling? Yeah, humble thoughts, yeah. So I still like Bitcoin. I publicly disclose what 4 cryptos I own, and 95% of all cryptos are a scam. You know, what I own and have owned and will own forever includes Bitcoin, Ethereum, as well as Litecoin and Ripple as well. But I think of Bitcoin as being a digital gold. And as the Chinese government and other governments buy less US dollars over the years, the most logical thing to buy for them is gold. So I'm a big gold fan. I do own gold. And I think Bitcoin is like digital gold as well. These are fake props, plastic. Okay. But I do pray for peace globally. Yeah, it's at the top of my prayers. Okay. Next up, Robert wrote, as many can act for an hour. If you're interviewing, what would you say as to try to filter out toxic candidates? Yeah. Oh, it's tough. I always say hire slowly and fire quickly. The reality is it takes me longer to fire people. I have a big heart. But like when I worked at Goldman Sachs, we had like 40 interviews before we got in. And so I would over interview. I would interview people morning, evening, nights, group settings, one-on-one, multiple times. because as we all know, it takes one bad apple or one person to destroy the corporate culture or destroy a team entirely. So take your time. And if you interview somebody multiple times, you will find out their true character as well. And what I'm about to say is kind of out there, but I want you to go with your gut as well. Like, we've all met people in life and we tell ourselves, we don't know why. We tell ourselves, I don't really know if I trust this person. And then, you end up dating them or doing business with them or being friends with them. And then they backstab you. Go with your gut. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Go with your gut always. Yeah. Okay. And do background checks too, but don't ask for references, because references, it's a silly game. Like, who the heck is going to provide a reference that's going to say bad stuff? So go on LinkedIn, find people you have in common with that person, set up a Zoom call with them, and ask about that person. And when you get older, meaning over 20, you kind of learn not to say negative things about anybody. But if you talk to somebody, a reference you found, and you ask them what they think of somebody, and they're neutral, meaning they don't say positive things, then take that as a negative. One data point doesn't make a trend. Do multiple reference checks, of course. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Manos wrote, my mentor, Chris, please. Just saying, if you had held your position at Facebook, you'd be the richest Canadian on the planet, owning the fact that Peter Thiel made $2 billion in his Facebook stake. Yeah. He invested, I think, $500,000. Yeah. Yeah, no, I sold. So I worked in venture capital and I sold. You have to realize profits, though. Yeah. Same thing with Palantir. I owned it, and actually we purchased the shares from Peter Thiel. We got the rights to invest in that as well when I worked in VC, and I sold as well pre-IPO. Yeah. Okay. Next. Okay. Yeah, and Manos, regarding that next comment, I pray for global peace. I do. Yeah. Okay. All right. And then you wrote here, how much in terms of a percentage should stop losses be kept, like for stocks and for cryptos? What are your thoughts? Yeah. So typically, whenever I invest in a company, when I used to do it professionally, I always look at the risk reward. The reward is usually, if I'm long something, the upside of my target price, and the risk is my downside. Okay, and the downside is usually a stop loss level, like a technical support level, like the 50 or 100-day moving average. And if it definitively breaks through, when I manage money professionally, definitively breaks through this level, I usually cut my losses and move on. Yeah. And we keep much tighter stop losses when it comes to shorts as well, because you can lose an infinite amount of money if a short goes up a lot. Kind of like a lot of hedge funds went bankrupt in January 2021 when GameStop, ticker GME, went up 29.4 times in the month of January 2021 alone. Yeah. Okay. And Manos, thank you for that. Thank you. Love you, man. Okay. Next up, question is here. Manos wrote, Jamie Dimon and David Solomon, those are executives, JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, respectively. Jamie Dimon and David Solomon warned that the economy may slow down owing to Middle East problems. How long will it go, and will rate hikes make things worse or better for the long term? Yeah. Uncertainty in the Middle East, could drive oil prices up, which is the absolute worst thing when it comes to inflation, because oil is put into everything from plastic to machines, everything. Yeah. Again, I do pray for peace. Okay, next question is, as you suggested last week, I put up a Dolly course, and I'm humbled to say it's now been a week, and it's the highest rated in the space. Your help has already been so cool. Always. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, and congratulations on moving quick for the first mover advantage for this stuff. Yeah. And then you wrote, Mid-Journey is weird, like you need a pro, and you need to use Discord as well. But it's kind of cool, to be honest. Should I look at building a couple courses on that? I would say stick to Dolly. Dolly 3 is much easier. And the great thing about Dolly 3 is it's built natively directly into ChatGPT. Yeah, it's easier to use as well. Yeah, much easier. Okay. Next up, Carol, who goes by Larexak, from Poland, one of my MBA students, wrote, and thank you so much, by the way, Carol, for creating the Discord channel for all of my MBA students, which we're going to deploy soon. Thank you. You wrote, hello, Chris. Hope you're well. Recently, I've started writing articles on LinkedIn. I really liked it. However, I wondered at what platform would you recommend to post tech-heavy tutorials? Yeah. So video-based tutorials, just go to YouTube. Yeah. YouTube is the absolute best. And what you can do is you can repurpose your content. So for example, I learned from Gary Vaynerchuk that repurposing content is the best way to get free publicity and spread your brand, your marketing message. So what happens is every week after this call is done, what my wonderful social media team does is they create videos to throw on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, etc. They repurpose. Yeah. And for more information on that, do a search on Gary Vaynerchuk. Gary V, 86 pages of insanity. It's an 86-page presentation he gave years ago, which will really help you understand the content pyramid. Again, Gary V, 86 pages of insanity. It's a great read. Yeah. Okay. And then you wrote here, when it comes to coding, where you put code samples, etc., I would stick there with GitHub. Yeah. And then on your YouTube channel, when you make YouTube videos on using Python or whatever it is you want to teach about, you can always have links in the description to your GitHub page as well. And for those who are not familiar with GitHub, it's a company that Microsoft bought a couple of years ago that allows you to copy and get code from or share it with others. Yeah, it's a great resource. And then Carol wrote, Minecraft is wonderful, even for a 23-year-old kiddo like me. Awesome. And dude, my kids, when they were a lot younger, I wouldn't let them play Call of Duty. And so what they would do is they would play Minecraft and shoot each other. Yeah. That's how kids got around that. And then Silu wrote, what is the secret behind your self-confidence? Yeah. I didn't always have it. I mean, I was pretty darn insecure when I was younger. You know, when I was in the 6th grade and the 8th grade, they wanted to fail me and they thought I had a learning disability. So they took me to a learning disability center in Oakville, Ontario on Lakeshore Road called Chisholm. That hurt my confidence. But in hindsight, I'm grateful to God that they did that, you know, because the school, not my parents are the best. I'm grateful to God they did that because, you know, it sent me in a different path in life. And it also made me work twice as hard as everybody else I know. And I met with this dude who's a senior partner at Sequoia. When I worked in venture capital, I was on the board of a company. We did the Series B, Sequoia the Series A. And I got to sit down with a partner at Sequoia. And I asked this dude, Sequoia is the best VC firm on the planet. I asked him, what kind of people do you invest in? And he said, we like to invest in people that something happened to them earlier in their life. We don't know what it is, but they have a chip on their shoulder and they want to prove the world wrong. And this is important because if you invest in somebody that wants to make a quick buck and sell a company for like $1 million, which is not much in VC land, you're not going to make a fortune investing in them. You want somebody that's never going to sell. You know, somebody like Elon Musk. And I recommend all of you out there listen to Elon Musk's audiobook written by Walter Isaacson. It's an incredible book. Alexa, read my book.
Getting your selection from Audible. Resuming Elon Musk.
Alexa, stop. But I'm learning a lot from, and this is the dude that wrote the book on Steve Jobs a couple of years ago. But I'm learning a lot about Elon Musk and how there were a lot of issues with him growing up, you know, in terms of his relationship with his father, as well as, you know, other students beating the heck out of him, beat him up a lot in school. And so maybe there's a chip on his shoulder to prove the world wrong. So for me, when it comes to confidence, eventually I just told myself, like I mentioned earlier today, I don't care what people think of me. I just don't care. And I used to be terrified of public speaking and presenting. I'd literally rather die than present. And so what I did was I ran to my fear. And I recommend everybody in this call run to your fear as well. Whatever your fear is in business or in life, run towards it because your competition will not. And so what I did was I ran towards my fear of public speaking by volunteering through my church, and this is not a religious thing, volunteering through my church to go into the prison system in Redwood City, California here, the McGuire Correctional Facility, and just talk to inmates and help them. And what happened was one week I went with the priest, and I'm a Eucharistic minister, but the priest didn't show up, right, to conduct mass that week in the McGuire Correctional Facility. And so the warden said, Haroun. I said, Haroun. He said, you're going to have to, conduct mass. And all that means is you read a bunch of stuff. But usually when a priest conducts mass, or any religious leader in all great religions, they read from a text, and then what they do is they give a speech. And they have the entire week to prepare for it, of course. So for me, I didn't have any time to prepare. So I got up there in front of 30 inmates in these orange jumpsuits with tattoos on their face. Some of them had swear words written here, like the F word. Is intimidating as hell. And I read the gospel. And the gospel passage that day was about, hope, faith, confidence, all that stuff. And then after I read it, I had to give a speech on that. And I was so scared, man. All the inmates were like this. They were looking at me like, who the hell is this guy? And I just thought on my feet, and what I said changed everything for me. I said this. I said, do you believe in God? And the inmates were like, yeah. And I said, well, does God believe in you? And they were like, yeah. And I said, well, if you don't believe in yourself, you might have to question your faith. We don't want to do that. And after I said that, the inmates' arms became uncrossed, and they're kind of looking up. And for me, that did it. And there's nothing more intimidating than presenting in front of prisoners. And I feel bad for these prisoners too, because a lot of them had, deadbeat fathers, poor things. So the bottom line is, whatever your biggest weakness or fear is in business, run to your fear. If you're fearful, and condition yourself to enjoy your fear as well. So I enjoy public speaking, inspiring people. But if your fear is I don't know, accounting, run towards your fear and learn to enjoy accounting. How do you enjoy it? You always ask, why are things the way they are? So why is it called a balance sheet? Well, it's because your assets has to balance with what you owe to people and what you owe to banks, liabilities and equity. Yeah. Run to your fears and tell yourself, I just don't care what people think of me. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Manos wrote, your friend, Mr. Trudeau. I know him. Yeah. And so he's the Prime Minister of Canada. I wouldn't have voted for him. But I got to go off script and tell you a Trudeau story. So I went to school with him at McGill University. Nice guy. And there was this girl, and she was so gorgeous that nobody would talk to her. And I wanted to talk to her, but I didn't have the confidence. And then I was in my 4th year of university at McGill back in 1994. And there was this charity event on campus by the McLennan Library. And she was there. And so I went up. I was like, screw it, let's do it, as Sir Richard Branson says. I went up to her and I started talking to her. And 5 minutes go by and she's still giving me the light of day. We're still talking. I'm like, oh my God. And she started to laugh at my jokes. And you know how awful my jokes are. 30 minutes go by. We're still talking. And I'm telling myself, dude, you got to ask for her number. And then this guy walks up. And this guy that walks up, he's got long hair. Looks like Jim Morrison. He comes up. And then immediately, she turns away from me to face him. And his jokes weren't funny. Well, they're probably better than mine. And she's ignoring me. And I was like, what just happened there? I just got Heisman. And so I put myself in the middle of them. And I don't know what to say. I told the guy, I'm like, hi, Chris Haroun. Like, I'm nobody. And he goes, Justin Trudeau. I can't compete with a Kennedy. Yeah, no, but he was a nice guy. Yeah. But 57% of Canadians, according to a recent Gallup poll, don't approve of him. Yeah. I should stay away from politics. All right. Next up, Manas wrote, where is AI going in 10 years? Like, will we have AI kids in the future? Like, I'm seriously considering that for future people interested that may run that project. Yeah. So there's a great movie called Artificial Intelligence made by Steven Spielberg with Tom back in 2001 or 2002, where an AI child is created. And it's the same child that was in The Sixth Sense. That actor, he's great. Haley, I can't remember his name. But I think it will happen eventually, to the extent that people will date AI people. And it's interesting because one of my favorite video games is called Detroit Become Human. Everybody should play it if you want to learn about AI. And while you play the game, I played it on my PS4 years ago. In between cutscenes, it's connected to the internet, the game. And you're asked questions. And you could see the answers from other people. And one of the questions was, would you ever date an android? And 75% of the people, thousands of people playing that game, said yes. Yeah. And there's moral and ethical issues too that will come up with that as well. But there will come a time, because of AI, robotics, etc., that we won't be able to decipher if a person is, kind of like Data from Star Trek. And there's going to be a heck of new regulations coming too for AI. As part of GPDR, there are new proposed AI regulations coming in Europe, the United States as well. And all big companies are going to have their own CAIE positions, Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer position. Yeah. Like Jeff Boudreau from Dell. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Eric Tree, hey Eric, wrote, hey Chris, what are some current projects you're working on? Yeah, so I'm working very, very hard right now on creating the complete Python course. I'm using tons and tons of props to make it as well. I'm trying to teach it with Luca Anderson, who's here in my house with me for 6 weeks. He's from Serbia. He's an AI expert. We're trying to use a lot of Lego as well to teach in a very innovative way, and we're using a lot of AI as well. And we're adding a lot of groundbreaking new technology to that Python course. Also going to be teaching, how to use Python and Excel and so much more. We're also recording tons of short AI courses. Yeah. And we're working really hard on that. And I'm always adding brand new stuff to my MBA program. If anybody buys my MBA, you get all that stuff for free forever. Yeah. So that's what I'm working on. Yeah. Okay. Unless GTA 6 comes out, then all bets are off. And when GTA 6 comes out, probably next year, I hope, I won't be doing this webcast for an entire month. Okay, just saying. All right. And then Rahul wrote, can you briefly tell me about how to do 100 informational meetings, which you say is covered in the Haroun MBA? Yeah, in my Haroun MBA program, and you can learn about it at harounmba.com. We start with personal growth right at the beginning of the MBA program. We teach about, how to network and how your network is your net worth. And so the easiest way to set up 100 informational meetings is to have an incredible LinkedIn profile first, which I teach about for people in my MBA program in Personal Growth Semester 1, Class 1 through Personal Growth Semester 1, Class 11. Have an incredible LinkedIn profile set up, and then reach out to people that you have at least one or two things in common with. And you keep your emails very short, okay? You say, John, for example, hope all is well. I also live in the Bay Area, and I also went to the Toronto French School, and I'm also from Mississauga. Please let me know if you have time for a coffee. Thanks a lot, Chris. All those things were true. So just find a couple things you have in common with them to get an informational meeting. And you might think to yourself, Chris, I don't get it. Why the heck would somebody say yes to a meeting with me? Well, think about it this way. Imagine it's 20 years from now, and you're 20 years more successful than you already are today. And somebody, a younger version of you, reaches out to you and said, do you have time for a meeting? Would you say yes? Oh, heck yes, you would. Absolutely. And just remember, relationships are more important than product knowledge, and your network is your net worth. Now, Eric, if you try to set up a bunch of informational meetings and you're not getting responses, if you want, you can share your LinkedIn profile with me right here, as well as what you're saying in these emails, and I can humbly help you get more meetings. Yeah. And if you guys want to learn more about networking, you can always go to my website, which is Haroun MBA. And Cassandra, my CMO, just changed this. Looks good. And if you scroll down to the bottom here, there's a book I have. Oh, I like what you did here as well. It's you can get it for free. It's a couple hundred pages plus a few hours of links to YouTube videos. It's called Networking to Get Customers, a Job, or Anything You Want. Okay. Andros wrote, what do you think about BlackRock and Larry Fink? So Larry is the CEO. I'm a fan. I mean, I don't have anything negative to say about him. You know, BlackRock is the biggest asset manager in the world. They'll probably be the first asset manager to have over $10 trillion in assets within a couple of years. Moving on to Rahul, who wrote, how do you improve LinkedIn post engagement? I've tried multiple formats, whether it's text, carousel, etc., but there's no such difference in impressions and engagement. Yeah, a couple things. Number one, you can publish a LinkedIn article or a LinkedIn post. Articles, I find, always get less engagement, right? Posts tend to do better. Reposting something is not that good, though, if you want engagement, right? You won't get that many clicks. So the way to create a great LinkedIn post and get a lot of clicks is to use A/B testing to come up with a great title. Title's important. You know, keep it short, something like 10 tips on how to ace your interview. Or you can use ChatGPT to give you better responses when it comes to the title. Okay, use ChatGPT a lot for that, just for the title. What you can also do is have a picture. Now the picture, it's crucial because, you know, if you have a crappy thumbnail, nobody's going to click it. And so when I used to do it myself years ago, I used to use a lot of bright colors, and I use a celebrity sometimes. And so I had one post that got, I think, 13 million or 13,000 likes or whatever it was on finding a mentor at work. And I had a picture of Yoda with a bright green lightsaber. Yeah. And try not to make your post too long. Like, I think 600 words is a good amount. And never have more than 3 sentences in a single paragraph. You know, gone are the days when people would read 5,000 word editorials in places like Vanity Fair, wherever people read those things. Less is more. Okay. And then you wrote, any advice on how to grow on Twitter? Yeah, I'm not really using Twitter very much anymore, X as they call it. Just try to add value with all social media products. If in life in general and in business, you try to help people, then in the long run, good things will happen to you. You know, give and you'll receive. It's prophetic. It's been true since the beginning of time. And last thing I'll say is that when one teaches, two learn. Yeah. But whatever social media platform you're going to use, just be consistent. If you post once a week at a certain time, then post once a week at a certain time. Always just be consistent and understand it's a marathon and not a sprint, and that your competition will give up. So stay in it for the long run. This is week 249. And I'm so proud that we've never taken a single endorsement. Yeah, we're doing everything organically. And you are my customer, my student. Yeah, always. All right. I'll come in here in a wheelchair one day. I'll still be doing this. Yeah. And you're most welcome, Lorexac. Okay, Q Franco wrote, hey, Chris, hey. Do you know of any exercises for Python with solutions? I'm learning and would like to practice more to build up my skills. I'm particularly interested in data analysis, stats, trading, etc. Yeah. So I would start by taking Angela Yu's course on Udemy. But I'm going to show you a great resource for learning Python right here. So it's called W3 Schools. Okay. And what you can do is you can learn about Python from scratch here. Okay. So just do a search on W3 Python. You'll find this. You start here, okay? You read this, then you try an example, right? This is Python code running on the side here. And then you just click next, 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 and you watch the whole thing, right? So all of this covers everything, right? So you can go through this in probably a day or two and understand Python from a high level perspective. And per your question, there are plenty of exercises you can practice here. It gets more complicated towards the bottom. when you're using more advanced stuff. Yeah. Like MongoDB, which is like a database you can use for Python. Yeah. So that's where I'd start. Yeah. And my course with Luca is coming out soon as well. You can check that out if you want. Yeah. Okay. Next up, MTI wrote, thanks, Chris. Very valuable information. My pleasure. You wrote, I have your business plan course on Udemy, and I plan to use that for creating my business plan. Thanks a million. You're most welcome. You're most welcome. I had a lot of fun making that one. Yeah. And you have to have fun making courses or anything you do in business. And you got to be artistic as well. Think of yourself like a creator. Like my Excel course, I was so sad when it was done because I don't know, I think of Excel like it's a palette. And I'm a painter, as bizarre as that sounds. But if you try to be artistic or creative and think differently in business or whatever it is your occupations are, you'll be more successful because you'll enjoy it. And if you enjoy it, you'll accomplish more. All right, next up, we got Gus. Hey, Gus, first time seeing you on the call. I hope you join us again. So Gus wrote, Chris, I'm new to investing. Where do I start? Stocks or crypto? People are saying, don't save your money in the bank. Yeah, the reason they're saying that is because historically cash is trash. And governments will print more and more cash, diluting your net worth. So I would not start with cryptos. I would start with ETFs. Okay, and you can always go to a website, etfdb.com, and look from there. My go-to ETF is the VOO, ticker VOO, which is the S&P 500. And the reason I like it is because historically the S&P 500 is up 12-15% every year. On average, there's some up years, some down years. I guarantee you it'll be higher several decades from now. Yeah. And the lowest risk investment on the planet is, well, number one, the US government. And then I'd say number two, the VOO. Yeah. Because everything is relative in business and investing. And the very last company to go bankrupt globally, it is what it is. It is US government. Yeah. Okay. All right. Eric, how are you, man? Eric is from Sarasota, I think, right? Florida. You wrote, in Florida, it rains cats and dogs. I know it's because I stepped in a poodle. Dude, that was good. I stepped in a poodle. Nice. Okay. All right. And Silu wrote, thank you very much for your advice. God bless you. God bless you more. Thank you. All right. Hamad wrote, is this live going to be saved? I want to see all of it, but unfortunately I won't be able to. Yeah, absolutely. You can always access it on my YouTube channel. And within 1 or 2 hours of this call being done, I always get John Clee, one of my guys who works with me in Rochester, New York, great guy, to write up all the questions asked. You can go to the description field and get clickable access. Let me show you real quick here. And we've been doing this for years, obviously. So you can always go to my YouTube channel and click on it, or you can go up here to Haroun MBA Weekly Webcast, and then everything is added right here. So this is an interview last week. Yeah. So I'm changing my branding a bit too. Yeah. I'm using canva.com for it. All right, next up we have got Eric wrote, I plan to transition in many different fields in finance, like you have throughout your career in venture capital, consulting, hedge funds. Yeah. Any advice to pursue a similar path like you did? Yeah. So everybody's path is different. And it takes us a while to find our passion in life. For me, it took me until my 40s to find, I'm 51 right now. It took me until my 40s to find my passion, which is teaching. But along the way, I worked as a developer. I programmed a lot at Accenture. Then I, wasn't really passionate about that at a certain point. So I went to go work at Goldman Sachs, and I wanted to make more money. So I went to a hedge fund, right? Worked out fine, whatever. And I wanted to make more money. So I went to venture capital. And then I realized that, am I clinically depressed? Because my happiest day at any company, whenever I changed careers, which I did a lot, was day one. And it all went downhill. And I realized it's because I wasn't doing what I was passionate about in life. So you got to run to your passion and don't give a damn what anybody thinks of you. Like, people thought I was crazy, when I quit VC to teach. And that's a good thing. Because if they think you're crazy, it means you're early. And I'm always long-term focused. As Warren Buffett said, the longer the view, the wiser the intention. You have to be long-term greedy. So I think I'm crazy. And then when you get some success, you're crazy genius. And then eventually you're just genius. I'm always going to be thought of as crazy, though. Yeah. But find your passion as soon as you can. And the way to know that you found your passion is if I tell you, you're not allowed to work for a month, and you can't go to school, and you can't travel. What are you going to do with your time? And that is your passion, your purpose, your raison d'être. And that is what the path you should follow in your life. Yeah. But what are we here for anyway? You're here to help people. So whatever you do, think of it as you helping people. How do you help people? You do something you love doing. Okay. All right. Give me 1 second here. Okay. Richard wrote here, I'm stuck in no man's land. I'm a cloud architect, a student with a CISSP and other cloud vendor certifications. Now, what value would the Haroun MBA provide me to break into cloud and security? Yeah. So I will teach you how to network on steroids. I will teach you all aspects of all business topics, including technology. I will help you change careers. If you're not getting a 10x return on investment in the first 30 days, I want you to ask for your money back. There's a 100% money back guarantee. I will help you change careers or your money back. And at the very start of the MBA program, we talk about networking in a lot of detail as well. And the problem with traditional business schools is, well, first of all, they're very expensive. It's not a professional designation, any MBA, by the way. They're very expensive, and they teach you stuff that was literally relevant, last century. They're not up to date. And they don't teach you the most important skill sets, but my MBA does. So what do they not teach you? They don't teach you how to network. They don't teach you how to get customers. They don't teach you how to present. They don't teach you how to manage your own money. They teach you how to manage other people's money. They don't teach you how to start a business. All right? Ask anybody who graduated from business school. So do you know how to start a company? Yeah. So all this stuff I teach is relevant. You can apply immediately in the real world to take your career to the next level or your money back. Okay. All right. Next up, Carol from Poland wrote, if you want to see a great movie about AI, go and find Her from 2013 with Phoenix. 1 year ago, nobody would say what's happening in the movie might be possible today. It already is. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Yeah. And that movie had such a prophetic impact, actually, back in 2013 on technology. That it was the most impactful movie because it made companies like Microsoft with Cortana, Amazon with ALEXA, as well as Apple with SIRI. Think about how you can have a virtual-based operating system you can't see, feel, or touch. And that movie had the most prophetic impact on technology investments than any movie since Minority Report. And Minority Report, Steven Spielberg movie, came out in 2000, and I think it was 2002 with Tom Cruise. That really impacted graphical user interfaces, everything from swipe screens to much, much more. Yeah. And basically what happens in the state of California where I live is in Southern California, you have Hollywood. And Hollywood, we have these dream printers, we call them. And they create these cool concepts in movies that become reality in Northern California here a decade or so later. Like the flip phone was from Star Trek, actually. Beam me up, Scotty. A lot of stuff was dreamed up in movies like Her, as well as Minority Report. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And then MTI wrote, Chris, I have your 1-year MBA from Udemy. Yeah, so that course is called an entire MBA in one course, which is actually profiled today in I just got interviewed in Fast Company. With Vital, we built a school together. You can do a search on Fast Company and me today if you want. It's different. The course you're taking on Udemy is different. Silver is hundreds and hundreds of hours with new content being added all the time. An entire MBA in one course is 7.5 hours. Yeah. And that one, I'm humble to say, we're coming up on our 500,000th student that purchased that course. And yeah, it's been surreal. And I never did it for the money. that course I made on Udemy, the only reason I made it, I'll show you why. I worked in venture capital at that point in time. And what I did was, pardon me, what I did was on the weekends, I would teach at a charity I was on the board of called the Limo Foundation in East Palo Alto, where the high school graduation rate is literally 40%. And so what I did was I would teach on Saturdays these students. And these are students, wonderful students from East Palo Alto. And then what I did was I called it an entire MBA in one day. And this was me in January 2016. And then the next day on a Sunday in January 2016, I put up a camera at home and I just recorded myself for one day. And that became that 7.5-hour course called an entire MBA in one course. And the degrees they have, it's so interesting because the degrees here, this whole degree concept it was the genesis for what I do. And I created, because of that charity thing I did, an entire MBA in one course, as well as, an MBA degree program, which, I humbly think it's helpful and it's low cost and all that stuff. Yeah. And the profits from what I do, a lot of profits go towards building schools in places like Rwanda, as well as scholarships I provide to students all over the world. Yeah. You got to find a sense of purpose in what you're doing. Yeah, always. Okay. And then Hamad wrote, what was Detroit, the game you mentioned about AI? Yeah, I'll show you. It's an incredible game. You got to play it. So it's called Detroit, made by Quantic Leap, I think. Become Human. Yeah. And there's a lot of real actors as well. You'll recognize them when you start playing, including Minka Kelly, who I think was Derek Jeter's girlfriend. But basically, you play as an android, and everybody has a different ending in the game as well. But it's fascinating. I think you'd love it. Again, it's called Detroit Become Human. Yeah. Incredible. Great game. And then Manas wrote, thank you, my mentor. God bless you forever and ever. See you next week and forever. Thank you so much for these emojis, and God bless you. Namaste. God bless you. All that great stuff. Okay. And then Eric wrote, LinkedIn names me a top training development HR voice. Nice, dude. How would you advise to use that for my job hunt? I would put that in your title on LinkedIn, right? So I would do something along the lines of learning and development executive, and then put a line, one of those vertical lines, and then put linked. I would write something about that in your title, named Top Training and Development HR Voice by LinkedIn. And then what you can do is in the summary section on your LinkedIn profile, you can talk about that in more detail. Yeah. And for the summary section of LinkedIn profile, always think about it like you're about to give a speech. And somebody asks you, hey man, do you have a bio I can read to introduce you? That's how you should write your summary. Yeah. And I've seen your LinkedIn profile. It's money. It's good. Yeah. Okay. And then you wrote, by the way, great interview last week. Thank you. I appreciate that. And we're going to start interviewing higher profile people as well. Last week, Amy Reagan Morehouse, she's very high profile. She's senior vice president of ServiceNow. But I'm going to start doing analysts that work on Wall Street, people and have seen on CNBC, et cetera. So there's a guy named Brent Thill that I'm going to be interviewing in a couple of weeks. And he's probably one of the best software analysts on the street. He's worked at all the top investment banks as well and done tons of IPOs. You guys will enjoy that. I'm also going to be interviewing Karen Rotter Davis, who's one of the top venture capitalists in the world as well. We worked on a deal together years ago. And she also worked at Google and headed up the IPO when she worked there back in 2004 when the IPO was in the fall that year. Yeah. So that will come soon. Yeah. A lot of great people I'm going to be interviewing. And then eventually the who's who CEOs and stuff. I've not really tapped in my network. I've been so focused on teaching, creating content. Now I'm going to start tapping on my network and share experts' knowledge with all of you on this weekly call. Yeah. And of course, I'll still answer all your questions. Always. Yeah. Okay. Eric wrote, should the U.S. Constitution be changed to say all humans are created equally? There's going to be a lot of... It's interesting because there's going to come a time when people might think that it's politically incorrect to not be very polite to AI. And it's going to be an uncomfortable time. But I think it will happen at some point. Yeah. I'm not going to go there. Okay. Eric wrote, do you believe that kill switches that have been installed in AI systems such as ChatGPT will be effective? Yeah, ChatGPT is really a black box. Like nobody knows how it works, right? And that's kind of an issue. And that's why a lot of big companies, I've been presenting recently to big companies about AI. And when I present, I have to put tons of disclosure saying, always check with compliance or HR before using any AI products. It's a black box. But I think the killer application is going to be licensing large language models or AI-based products on your intranet that are secure and private. Yeah. And a couple months ago, ChatGPT announced ChatGPT Enterprise, and Microsoft announced Bing Chat Enterprise. But there's got to be a way that you can license those products and run them in-house only. Otherwise, it's a compliance, security, privacy nightmare. Yeah. Yeah. Even it's interesting because as I'm preparing this this Python course with Luca, I'm working right now. It's a really long course, but I'm working on one of the sections now, which is using Python in Excel. It's awesome, but when you use Python in Excel, what happens is the Python code is run in a container up in the cloud. That's a security issue as well. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Richard. Hey, Richard wrote, thank you, Chris. You're most welcome. You wrote, I'm buying the course now, but where's platinum? I can only see silver. No, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. And please keep in mind that if you do not get a 10x return, please ask for your money back. Yeah. Okay. All right. So if you go to my website here, if you buy the MBA program, I only have silver listed right now because platinum, the next platinum I'm going to be releasing is going to be, is it here? We might have changed. I think we might have changed where it's listed here. Hold on a second. Is it FAQs? Yeah, here it is here. Yeah. So yeah, silver is only available right now. If you buy silver, you'll be able to upgrade with a discount to gold and platinum. The next gold and platinum I'm launching next year. Yeah. Yeah. And if you buy silver every single week, if you go to the first lecture in the silver curriculum, every week there's a link for a Zoom call to do with me. That's at 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. every week, just for silver students every Thursday. So that's about a half hour from now. Go to the first lecture, and then you come on to Zoom, and I can help you with your LinkedIn profile or any other questions you have. Yeah. Yeah. And then platinum and gold is a little bit different. Same content, except you get more, you get hours and hours and hours with me every week, as well as in platinum, you get one-on-one meetings that are all confidential and stuff. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Real JP wrote, I recently failed in a startup. Let me, before we go any further, failure is cool and you'll never be successful without it. As Michael Jordan said, I failed over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed. Failure is a badge of honor. Yeah. Okay. And so many executives that famous people we know, they failed multiple times before they made it big. Steve Jobs' first business failed. Bill Gates' first company called Trafo Data, which counts cars, failed as well. Tons of people failed. Michael Bloomberg got fired by Merrill Lynch. He certainly got his revenge when he started Bloomberg. So failure is a badge of honor. Let me read your question now, sorry. You wrote here, I recently failed in a startup. Now I have finance issues and also some new ideas of a startup. What do you suggest? A job or a startup? Yeah. Oof. I would say before starting a company, write a thorough business plan first. And I can help you with that. In my MBA degree program, in the third semester, there's a venture capital bootcamp where I help you write your business plan and much, much more. Failing to plan is plan to fail. Do not launch a startup unless you write a thorough 100+ page business plan. Yeah, please. And I help you by asking you 700 or 800 questions on how to create your business plan and 50 templates, etc. in the MBA degree program. Yeah. So do not start a company without writing a thorough business plan first. It's one of the most important business decisions or decisions in life you'll ever make. Because if not done correctly, it can hurt you, financially, health-wise, relationship-wise, all that stuff. Yeah. So, yeah. But there's nothing wrong with going back to work at a big company while you think about writing your business plan. Yeah. Okay. And always use other people's money when it comes to starting a company. OPM. Yeah, other people's money. And never get a loan from a bank, because if you miss one payment, the bank can take everything. Obviously, register the company name as well, so they can't take your personal assets. Yeah. You get money from high net worth investors initially, because the sales cycle is quite short. And then longer term VC, but not VC at first place. Yeah. Okay. And then Gus wrote, thank you for the advice. You're most welcome. What app do you use to invest? Yeah, so my favorite one is Think or Swim, and it's made by TD Ameritrade. Yeah, and you can download a free version of the application Think or Swim on your desktop, and you can run a paper portfolio or a real portfolio. Start with a paper portfolio, especially if you're going to do advanced stuff like options, which I teach in my MBA program in a lot more detail. And if you can't get access to Think or Swim to use it for a paper portfolio in the country that people live in, you can always use a VPN. Yeah. And the VPN I use is called ExpressVPN. I use it on all my devices. My favorite vlogger, Marquise Brownlee, mentioned it. Yeah, that's why I use it. Yeah. Okay. All right, next up I have got here Eric from Florida, who wrote, I took my MBA in 1987. Yours is better and cheaper than that one. Thank you. Appreciate that. God bless you. Eric's in my gold MBA program. Yeah. Good to see you, bud. Okay. Next up, we got Mata, who wrote, good evening, Chris. I'm a young entrepreneur who wishes to start an agriculture, is that right? Agro-tourism business through European funds. My question regarding this is, how do I minimize my risk with my investment? Yeah. So regardless of what business you start, and this is a generic response, make sure you write a full business plan first. And I teach about that in my MBA degree program. It's on my courses as well. Failing to plan is plan to fail. And try to use other people's money always. Yeah. And the way you do that is you could sell part of your company, maybe 5 or 10%. To a high net worth investor that will assume the risk. Yeah. The risk of capital. Yeah. And then Eric wrote, Wozniak, who's the technical co-founder of Apple, Steve Wozniak, said, who plays Segway Polo. It's true. He wrote, he said, I hope they treat humans like humans treat their favorite dogs. What are your thoughts? Well, they say a dog's a man's best friend. Yeah. Okay. And then Mata wrote, and to maximize my projected revenue, to better understand my potential losses, where should I need to strengthen my business idea? Yeah. So when you write the business plan, and again, I ask you 700 or 800 questions in the third semester of my MBA program when we do the venture capital bootcamp, you'll find out what your weaknesses are or your gaps. Now, speaking of Steve Jobs and Wozniak, Steve Jobs, his gap, God bless him, was that he wasn't technical. He was more of a sales and marketing person. Brilliant guy. And so he found Wozniak, who was a techie. So you got to find your Woz or your Jobs for a perfect yin-yang structure to your management team. And the only way you'll know what the gaps are in your skill set or your company or your business model or your platform longer term is to write a comprehensive business plan. Yeah. And the way you know you have a good business plan or a good investment idea is if you finish writing the whole business plan or you finish writing the whole investment research template that I provide you with. Yeah. And all these templates that I provide you with my MBA program, they're basically a safety net for you, so that you think of every risk, or almost every risk, for a startup idea, business plan, or with a potential investment. Yeah. Okay. All right, and Eric wrote, please add how to program in Azure, AWS Colab, and Linode. Yeah. We're working on that. We're about to release something big in the AI course. We just recorded a new section on Azure, or part of AWS, and then we're doing a lot of stuff with Amazon Bedrock as well. Yeah, but we will add all that stuff you mentioned and much more. Yeah. So in my MBA degree program, there's 6 pillars. Now, when I first started, there were 5 pillars, or 5 parts to it. The initial 5 were entrepreneurship, finance and accounting, sales, marketing, communication, personal development, and economics management and strategy. Those are the 5 main pillars. And I've been adding a ton of new stuff over the past year, and I'll continue to do so for a 6th pillar, which is technology. And so if there's any technology that's created between now and any time in the future that I really believe can take your career to the next level, I will add it to the MBA curriculum. ChatGPT was released publicly less than a year ago, and I've already added a complete artificial intelligence elective to the curriculum. Yeah, and there's new languages too that were just released. One of them is called Mojo, and we're working right now on adding that as well. So Mojo, it's the best way to explain it. It's like Python plus plus. It's infinitely faster than Python, and is secure and rock solid as programming in something called Rust is as well. Yeah. Okay. And then Prashant wrote, how do you stay so incredibly updated on the latest technologies to address questions effectively? Yeah. Well, I'm really well read. Sorry. No, I don't know. I'm just passionate about it. I've always been a nerd, a techie. My life changed in 1987 when my dad bought our first Mac for the house in Canada. I just love it. I'm passionate about it. Yeah. I'm the guy that whenever Apple has their special event, I'm so excited I watch it live if I can. Yeah. I'm also a first mover. That's not always a good thing in terms of trying new products. So the second that the Apple VR product comes out, I'm going to buy it immediately, just because I love that stuff. Yeah, it's fun. And a great way to stay up to date on just general business stuff is to listen, as I've showed you before, to ALEXA for the Wall Street Journal news every day. And there's a tech briefing part to it as well. That's in that daily podcast. You can do that. There's also my favorite podcast ever. It's called This Week in Tech, TWIT, TWIT, by Leo Laporte. And I listen to that as well, which I love. He's one of the best podcasters in history. He's great. I also go to another website called Engadget, which is great because it shows you all the cool new techie geek toys that are out there. Yeah, and I'm a gamer. I just love tech. It's fun. Yeah. I don't have a job. I have a passion. Yeah. Plus, by doing what I do, I get so many questions from my students from all over the world. I have tons of students that it kind of keeps me up to date and relevant, hopefully. Yeah. And when one teaches to learn, as I said earlier. So the first time I ever heard about NFTs, which nobody talks about now because interest rates are going up. But the first time I heard about NFTs was through a question on this weekly webcast. Yeah. Okay. Even little things like Manas, who's a brilliant AI dude from India. I didn't know that Bing Chat, that you could run Bing Chat within ChatGPT to get real-time data. He told me that a couple of weeks ago. So I learned this stuff vicariously through all of my wonderful students here. So for example, if you use ChatGPT 4, right here, if you go browse with Bing, you see right here, this is real-time data. So ChatGPT itself only has data up until January of 2022. But if you select here the Browse with Bing plugin, you can get real-time data. So watch this. What are the best performing stocks this year? And what ChatGPT is going to do right here is it's going to go, and it's slow. It's kind of a beta/alpha product. It's going to grab it directly from weird. It's going to grab it directly from Microsoft. I have not seen this here. Okay. So it's generating now. It's quite slow in terms of best performing stocks of 2023. This is new, actually. They had added this the other day. So while that's generating, what I'll do is I'll read the next question. Okay. And then Eric wrote, are the 100 questions written down somewhere in the curriculum? Yeah. So there's, okay, so when it comes to the 700 or 800 questions that I ask you for the Venture Capital Bootcamp, for example, you can go directly to E31. That's Entrepreneurship Semester 3, Class 1. When it comes to the 800 or so questions I ask you when doing an investment write-up, you can go to EMS 4-2. That's Economics Management and Strategy Semester 4, Class 2. Yeah. And if you have additional questions, let me know. It still says in the bottom right-hand corner, my face is covering this up here. It still says generating. So it's an alpha product. It takes a while. Yeah. But I'll leave it generating as I read more questions here. Okay. And then MTI wrote, you're the best, Crystal. God bless you. You wrote, such a generous giver, learning so much from you. Well, thank you so much for being here as well. And I learned through all of your questions as well. And I do love my students so much. Thanks. Which is why I've never taken an endorsement and never will. Unless it's a crazy amount that I can donate immediately to Project Magoo. Yeah. Which is we're trying to build 1,000 schools in Africa through Project Magoo. You wrote, true gift to the world. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. Still taking a while to generate this. I'm just going to gut it and move back to my A cam right here. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Hey, Brian, how are you? Brian's from Virginia. He's in my Silver MBA program. I've got to know him pretty well, actually, on my weekly Silver call as well. Really good guy. Great investor as well. Big comic book fan as well. So Brian wrote, I meant to ask last week. Sure. During the classes, you went over your old investment reports. Yeah, I always get this question. Is there a way to download your old reports so I can go over them and learn how to do the same as mine? Yeah, I can't find them. I just have screen images of those. You can always zoom in to read them. And I think the one you're probably referring to is either eBay or NetSuite. And I can talk about them in more detail. Broke my heart when Oracle bought NetSuite because I thought it was going to be like a $500 billion market cap company one day. Yeah. Okay. Are Rust and Mojo compatible or mutually? They're two different things. So think about Mojo as kind of like Python Plus and Rust as a separate language. Yeah. And Mojo you can now run in your browser as of September of this year. It was really released publicly in May of this year as well. If you're watching the replay, it's 2023. Yeah. And I'll talk about that in more detail in that complete Python elective, which will hit your MBA, and you're a gold subscriber. So silver, gold, platinum, we'll get it for free. I'm going to try to get it done by the end of the year. Yeah, and actually today we're wrapping it up. Luca's here as well from Serbia. Brilliant man. We're wrapping it up today. And then we're going to start record a ton of AI courses starting tomorrow. Yeah. I tell you, man, every year I tell myself I'm going to slow down, not work as hard. And I just work harder and harder and harder. And my son, Matthew, who's applying to universities now, he was asking me philosophical questions like, why should I get into a great school? I was like, well, I don't know. It might open doors, I guess. He was like, so, Dad, you're telling me to work hard now so that later in life I can work harder. And I was like, no, dude, I'm trying to help you find your passion so you don't have a job. You have a passion. Okay. And then Shabans wrote, I went and did my first job in supply chain demand. Planning was too nervous, but the day went good. Lack social skills, though. Yeah, I'm with you. When I used to be a developer, and that's a cleaning crew upstairs. I don't know if you can hear the vacuum. But when I was a developer years ago, back in the 90s, I loved programming so much, but I would code for like 10, 12 hours straight, drinking Jolt Cola before Red Bull was created. I'm that old. And then I'd go to parties at night and I'd be kind of nervous, because I was kind of antisocial in that vacuum coding, speaking of vacuums. And the way that I was able to get rid of the nervousness in me was I ran to my fears, right? So if you're nervous, everybody else is nervous. Or if you're fearful of something in business, I promise you, your competition or co-opetition, people you work with, are nervous as well. But unlike them, I want you to run towards your fear. Move towards your fear and embrace it and condition yourself to think of it as something you enjoy. Yeah. Like I used to get nervous. I remember I'd be in an elevator and the senior executive, like Bob Steele, I remember when I worked at Goldman, we'd walk in the elevator. It's just the two of us. I was like, shoot, what do I say? I don't know what to say. I'm nervous. And, I'd say something like, beautiful weather today, isn't it? And after the elevator ride, I would tell myself, did I say something smart? Did that help my career? And then eventually I was like, oh my God, really, Chris? These senior executives lose respect for you, Chris, if you try too hard and if you're not yourself. Just be you. And don't give a damn what anybody thinks of you as well. So if you feel nervous, when you go to parties because maybe you're focusing too much time on being by yourself coding, force yourself to go to talk to people. Force yourself. And after a while, it becomes second nature, and condition yourself to enjoy it as well. Yeah, that's a problem with, I remember when I was younger, we used to call it a brain on a stick. Right? If you're a brain on a stick, you're a coder like I was, a developer, I did tons of coding. Then you're not as social. I don't know if I was a brain on a stick, I was just a stick, I guess. Yeah. All right. Okay. Eric wrote, do you think that NFTs with blockchain will replace the title of physical real estate property? Yeah. I think from a custodial perspective, it'll make sense longer term. Like historically, whenever we bought stocks, we'd actually have a real stock certificate. And then custodial services like CIBC Mellon and others and State Street were invented to kind of make it an e-version of a certificate you own. And so I think that all property that we own will probably be registered on some kind of online platform so that, it kind of keeps a record of who owns it. Like NFTs, for example, within the platform of Ethereum. Yeah. Eileen, how are you? Eileen, great to see you. Eileen was in my MBA class. She was a platinum student in the class I taught in 2019. She's from Atlanta. She's great. I remember I taught her some stuff on business analysis, and so she analyzed the company that she bought, and she found out she owned a horse. And then when I saw her, she came to our graduation event one year here. She gave me this horse, which I still have. Yeah. And Eileen's last name is the most beautiful last name on the planet. It's Deo Gracias, which means thank God. Yeah. So Eileen wrote, I'm loving your lectures on ChatGPT. Thank you. God bless you for that. I appreciate it. And for anybody in my silver, gold, or platinum MBA program, if you want to get access to the artificial intelligence part of the curriculum, just go to the very last lecture in the entire curriculum, and then you'll be able to access it there. Okay, question for you guys. I'm curious. Can you hear the vacuum in the background or not? I think so. I told them never vacuum between 8 and 10 on Thursday, but it's all good. They're awesome. All right. And then you said, ask the same question in Bing. Yeah, sure, I can do that. Absolutely. So if you're going to use Bing, you have to use the Edge browser, which I downloaded here. All right. So I will ask the same question here in Bing, and it'll work. Yeah. All right. So here it is here. Bing. Microsoft Bing. Okay, here we go. All right, so I'll say here, and it'll work, yeah. Okay. What are top performing stocks 2023? Put in table. Yeah. And the great thing about Bing you're going to see here is that unlike ChatGPT and Google Bard, you'll see the sources in real time as well. And without sources of data, it's kind of useless doing this stuff. So you'll see down here, you'll see source like CNBC and others. They'll be listed here in a second. Yeah, these stocks, most people never heard of these because they're micro cap, a lot of them. Yeah. But once this is done, you'll see the NVIDIA we've heard of. Here we go. The sources, come on, sources. Here we go. Money.usnews.com, Forbes, finance charts. Yeah. So anyway, you can get all the information from here. Yeah. If you do it in Bard, let me show you here. And by the way, Bard won't work for everybody, and neither will Bing Chat. Depends what country you're in. Okay. Okay, I'm not going to retype my password. But anyway, Bard's interface looks much better than ChatGPT or Microsoft Bing Chat. Partially because it's dark mode, but no, it does look cooler. Yeah. All right. Okay, next up, Eileen from Atlanta. And the great thing about Eileen, this is so awesome. God works in mysterious ways. I love this. In 2020, I stopped going to church, partially because, I usually go on Sundays, because of the pandemic. And then the next year, when the church was open, I still didn't go back. And then Eileen, this is unbelievable. Somebody she grew up with in the Philippines before she moved to Atlanta is now a pastor at my church. And so she introduced us. And that brought me back to church. So thank you for that. God bless you. All right. Eileen wrote, I do have a business accounting question. Sure. I have a QuickBooks subscription. Is there a way for me to still be able to do my profit and loss and other statements without using QuickBooks, Excel maybe? Yeah, you can always export the data directly to Excel if you want to. The beauty of QuickBooks, though, and I've used it a lot in my businesses over the years, is that with QuickBooks, you can automatically have all the information from your bank accounts, credit cards, etc., feed directly into QuickBooks, which I've done. You can also have QuickBooks automatically pay. You get QuickBooks Payroll, the plugin, automatically pay all your employees. And when it pays your employees, it automatically sends the federal and state tax forms and pays the taxes as well to the government agencies. Then at the end of the year, what I used to do was I would provide a password access to my accountant to get access to my QuickBooks so that they could file my taxes as well. Yeah. Excel, you can do it, but it's kind of a manual process. Yeah. QuickBooks, yay. Excel, no, when it comes to doing your accounting stuff. Yeah, but if you want to do just basic, financial forecasting, then Excel is better than QuickBooks. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Eric wrote, university is for social connections and future business. What do you think? University. So my thought process is that most universities are going to go bankrupt within my lifetime. And a lot of people are going to think I'm only going to go to university if I can get a degree from a well-known name, like a Harvard, whatever it is. Those schools will get hard to get into. But I think what's going to happen is 4-year undergraduate education is probably going to become 2 years in the long run. And that'll be supplemented with online as well. And competition is a good thing for the consumer. And finally, these big universities have competition. Yeah. So that's what I think is going to happen. Now, going away to school, I think it's a good thing too, because it helps you mature as well, at least for me. And for some reason, I had 13 hours of class a week when I was at McGill, my first year in 1990, and I couldn't make it to class. I can't remember why. Yeah. I had fun. I wouldn't change a thing. And then you wrote, Eileen wrote, use my bank statement CSV. Yeah. So your bank statement CSV, meaning comma separated value format file, it can automatically be imported into QuickBooks. And of course, you can always download it directly if you want to, directly into Excel Hell. The problem when you do that, though, is you're probably going to see debits and credits on both sides. It's easier to understand that within QuickBooks because it'll pretty up all the data and put it in an income statement. Then you can export that from QuickBooks directly to Excel and then play around with the report that way. Yeah. And if you're ever stuck and you don't know how to do something in any tech program, call support. Yeah. Like programmers I used to manage over the years when I was a developer, I would always tell them, if it takes you more than 5 minutes to figure something out, call the company. Yeah. Okay. And then Chibike wrote, hey boss, hey there. The 100-step investment method you teach us, is it exactly what you use? Yes. Yes. The reality is, though, do I sit down and document everything myself? No, because I know what's important and what's not. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But that's how my mind works. Yeah. But I did use that when I managed money professionally, that stuff. And my reports were like 400 pages long, literally, especially when I worked in venture capital. Nobody did more due diligence or thorough due diligence than me. Yeah. I'm sharing all my secrets with you guys as well, for what it's worth. Okay, and MCI wrote, thanks, Chris. I will get the silver. Thanks for bringing us the best. You're most welcome. Again, thank you. If you find it's not helpful and you're not getting a 10x return on investment, I want you to ask for your money back in the first 30 days. And if you purchase silver every week at 10 a.m., which is in 8 minutes from now, you'll be able to do a Zoom with me as well. And details in that 1 hour Zoom is always available in the first lecture of the silver curriculum. Yeah. Okay, and Eileen wrote, no, I can't hear the vacuum. Oh, no kidding. Eric said the same thing as well. Very cool. Huh, nice. I'm using a Shure microphone here that's pointing at me. That's probably why. Much better than my other Blue Yeti, which is my backup mic up here. Cool, thank you. Okay, Eric wrote, is there an alumni page with a location so that when doing business in a different spot that we're unfamiliar with, we can reach out to our fellow classmates? Yeah. So you can do a search on LinkedIn. It's something that we're working on right now. And Carol, who goes by Larakzak, who's on the call right here, he's created a Discord channel for all of us. We're beta testing it right now, and soon we're going to deploy it. Now, in the MBA degree program, we use Slack. You can try going to Slack if you want to as well. But eventually, we're going to transition over to Discord because it's free and because you can do a lot more with it as well. Yeah. Once Salesforce bought Slack, they started charging for it. Yeah. But you can always try Slack right now if you want to. Yeah. And I think over 1,000 people are in the Slack channels for my MBA thing. Not all students use it. Yeah. Okay. Okay. We got time for just a couple more questions. I got to wrap it up. I apologize. The question is from Matri, who wrote, is your options trading course enough to earn decent money for survival from a trading perspective? Yeah. No. So please don't trade. And I say it with love in my heart, be a long-term investor. And when you invest in options, the great thing about it is there's only a certain amount you can lose if you buy calls or buy puts. And there's 35 different option strategies I explain in a lot of detail. I want you to practice all this stuff first. And for those of you in the MBA degree program, you can go to FA44. That's Finance and Accounting Semester 4, Class 4. For the 30-hour options elective. Think about options as like an insurance policy. So you can buy what's called a put to offset a stock you own. In case that stock goes down, the put will make you money. Yeah. But if you want to make a lot of money using options, then what I recommend doing is, number one, do a ton of due diligence on a stock. A ton of due diligence. Like use my templates I talk about from scratch, finance and accounting stuff, my MBA program. Do a lot of research on a stock that you see several 100% upside. And then after you do that research on the underlying stock, then you can look to buy what are called leaps, which are like calls that expire in 1, 2, or 3 years. Okay, great. I do have to wrap this up, guys. I know there's more questions. If you're my Silver MBA program, I'll see you in a couple of minutes. We do our 1 hour Zoom every Friday or every Thursday at 10 a.m. in 5 minutes. Go to the first lecture in the curriculum and access that. If you're in my Gold or Platinum MBA program, I'll see you at 11:20 my time. That's in like an hour and a half. Where we do a 2-hour Zoom call. Otherwise, God bless you all. Have a great week. And I'll see you all next week and every week forever. I'm going to end this call with a short video that I always show that is life-changing. It's a Steve Jobs interview that I licensed from the Silicon Valley Historical Association. Please click the like button, subscribe, and all that stuff. God bless you. And I'll see you next week, same time, and every week forever. Thank you.
when you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it, that's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.